We're sitting down today with Commissioner Lesley Dahlkemper as part of our Get to Know Your Commissioner series. Thank you for sitting with us, Commissioner.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for all the work that you do, too, with the public affairs team.
Thank you. And I'm so excited to get to know you a little bit more. First, I want to start off with tell me a little bit about yourself. So, family life, passions, pets, even hometown.
Our family's called Jefferson County home for 30 years. And, it's a great place to live, raise a family, work, retire. And I think we've checked almost all of those boxes off. And Jefferson County is just an amazing community. I'm originally from the Chicago area. I moved to Denver in 1989 after graduate school to work as a reporter for Colorado Public Radio. I was a general assignment reporter, and then I moved into covering politics, the state legislature, public policy issues. And I interviewed a state senator from Lakewood named Mike Feely. And as we like to joke, the interview went very well. We've been married for almost 30 years now.
Wow. And what was life like before becoming a commissioner? What were you doing? What were you thinking of doing in that time?
Well, it's interesting because in my 30 years of professional experience, I've been very fortunate to do what I love. And I think that's so important to have a passion about serving the community, solving complex issues, listening to the community to find win-win solutions to the best of your ability. And I mentioned that I worked as a reporter for several years, and it was such an honor when I would interview everyday people who would trust me with their stories and to tell those stories. And it meant a lot. And along the way, I also had an opportunity to interview two former presidents, which was really quite an experience, including former President Gerald Ford, as well as Jimmy Carter. And it is especially meaningful because of Jimmy Carter's recent passing. And he had an incredible passion for housing and ensuring that families and individuals had safe, secure housing, one of the very issues that we work on as county commissioners. I went on to work at a national level in both the nonprofit and private sectors with a focus on K-12 education, making sure that students have access to great schools, that education is meeting the different learning needs of students, and also, most importantly, making sure teachers had the resources and support that they needed to be effective and successful. A big part of our work during that time was also giving the community a voice, especially those who weren't as engaged in schools for a whole host of reasons. And that was really meaningful work. When my daughter was young, I started my own business. It was a national award-winning communications firm. I did that for 10 years as she was growing up. And that's a little bit about just my professional background.
What was the thing that really inspired you to run to become a commissioner?
It's interesting because I had held only one elected position in the past, and I had no plans to run for elected office. And I took a little bit of a sabbatical, and my husband said to me, as I was thinking about what the next chapter looked like, you should really look into this county commissioner position that's going to open up. And I said, county commissioner, doesn't a county commissioner focus largely on land use, planning, really important issues in terms of how communities develop and grow? And he said, oh, it's much more than that. And I said, huh. So I reached out to Commissioner Casey Ty to learn more about his work and learned that the scope and the role that a county commissioner plays really touches all aspects of the community. And for me, I've always been very mission driven. It's important to me that whatever position I'm involved in, that it gives back to the community in some way, and that I'm using those skills and talents to advance work that benefits the community. That's really important. And what I also found interesting about the role of a county commissioner is that you wear multiple hats. Not only do you focus on creating policy that affects everything from housing to open space to human services and roads and transportation, and most importantly, the budget, which dictates it all, but you're also in a quasi-judicial role. Going back to land use issues, we hold hearings to determine how land will be rezoned. And on the surface, it may sound a little dry, but it's not at all. We'll have developers come forward who may own a parcel of land that is designated as agricultural, but they want to change the zoning to commercial or residential. And that has a direct impact on our communities and how those communities grow, as well as our local economy. So we have to weigh all those different factors. And then we also are in an administrative role to some degree, working with our county manager, our incredible county team on just the day to day work of the county and providing counsel and input.
Some people may not even know that you guys touch so many things on any given day. Through your service as commissioner, what are you most proud of, that proud accomplishment that you've made? I'm sure it's several.
There are a couple, but I'll lift up maybe two or three in particular. I'm especially grateful to Jefferson County voters for recently approving 1A, which removed artificial caps on dollars that we can use to reinvest in critical programs affecting the quality of life of individuals who live here in Jefferson County. And that was a big deal. Many counties had already removed the so called Tabor cap. Jefferson County had not, and this was our third try at it. We had an incredible group of people from the business community, community members, others who were engaged in working on that issue and hearing from our community what their priorities were. So those 1A dollars will go toward two areas. One is public safety. That includes wildfire resiliency, mental health, substance use disorders. And then the other bucket focuses on transportation. It's infrastructure, roads, all those bridges, all those critical components. And so again, I want to thank Jeffco voters for supporting this initiative because most importantly, it will bring some fiscal stability to Jefferson County, and it was long overdue. So that piece I am especially proud of. The other area that I'm proud of is the work that we've done together with fire chiefs, the sheriff's office, Jeffco Open Space, water specialists, many other partners, community members on building a more wildfire resilient Jefferson County. We are one of the top counties in the state that is under wildfire threat. So we're doing everything we can on the front end to minimize that risk. We've increased forest health in our Jeffco open space parks through mitigation efforts that are based and grounded in science and with a strategic look at how we think about mitigation in forests. We've done a lot in terms of home hardening as well as defensible space. We work hard with our partners at the state and the federal level, as well as others, to pursue funding to help advance these efforts. And we're now doing our best to build the capacity of the fire management team, which is under the sheriff's office, as well as our emergency management team. We're excited about those efforts. And a third area that matters a lot to me is housing affordability. If you're a teacher in Jefferson County, if you're a barista, if you're a firefighter, you should be able to live in the community in which you work. That's really important to me. And we know that housing affordability has been a critical issue for Jeffco. I serve with Commissioner Zenzinger on the Housing Task Force, which is funded by the Colorado Gives Foundation. We work with local mayors, housing experts, with Jefferson County Economic Development Corporation and others to really look at what are the policy levers that will increase housing that's affordable in Jeffco. It's good for our community, it's good for families, it's good for our local economies. So that's another big area that we're getting our arms around and doing some great work in.
And on top of your continued efforts with housing issues and fire mitigation, what are some things that you hope to accomplish next?
I think a top priority for us as county commissioners is to ensure that we're good fiscal stewards of taxpayer dollars. That is number one. And key to that work is always engaging our community. I'm really proud that during the several years I've been a county commissioner, we have done more, thanks in part to the great work of the public affairs team and many other divisions, to lift up the voice of community members because their input ensures the policies that we approve as county commissioners really reflect community concerns. And sometimes we may not always see eye to eye, but I'm hopeful that our community recognizes that we do the homework and the research. We care deeply and we listen closely to what they share with us before we make decisions that can have an impact on their quality of life, on their community. So good, solid fiscal stewardship will continue to be a top priority moving forward. Another interesting area we're working on, thanks to the opioid settlement funding, is how we work collectively in our region, Jefferson County, Gilpin, and Clear Creek counties, to address the opioid epidemic. And we're doing that on a couple of fronts in terms of treatment, education, and prevention. We have an incredible group of individuals ranging from mayors, mental health experts, people with lived experience, and many others with expertise in this area to help guide the best use of those dollars. We've seen the tremendous impact that the opioid epidemic has had on families, the loss of loved ones. We really are very proud of the work that we have moved forward to ensure that those opioid dollars are getting into the hands of our communities to address the epidemic that we have seen.
Which is so great to hear. And even during your time as county commissioner and even before county commissioner, you have such amazing, impactful service. That's what comes to mind speaking with you. And I want to know throughout your time of, serving other people and helping so many communities, what is a quote that you've clung to or words that have motivated you throughout your service?
I'll tell you that the quote can change day to day depending on what issue we're working on. But one quote that has stayed with me is a quote from Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, and she was the first African American woman to run for president. And it is one of my favorite quotes. And she said, "If they don't invite you to the table, bring a folding chair." And it just speaks volumes. It's a quote that has stood the test of time. And I really appreciate it because as an elected official, it's a reminder that all voices matter, all voices are equal, and we have to listen to that. And it's our job to find the common ground as we work on difficult issues. Sometimes the issues that we think are critical are different than where the community is at, and we have to pay attention to that. So I really appreciate that quote. And I also would say to our community, please engage, be part of the conversation, and most importantly, be part of the solution with us. The other story that stays with me that is also inspirational is the story of a former Colorado governor named Ralph Carr. And Ralph Carr stood up for American Japanese citizens during World War II and spoke very loudly and clearly against the internment of Japanese American citizens. And of course, we have Camp Amachi in Colorado. And he was one of very few governors who were willing to bring American Japanese to Colorado at a time when there was bigotry and hatred and great suspicion, all grounded in fear of American Japanese citizens. And so he had this quote that was along the lines of, "If you hurt them, then you're going to have to hurt me." And it was interesting because it would cost him his political career because everyone else around him had a very different perspective on what he was doing. But when all was said and done, it was about doing the right thing. And I have immense amount of respect. And I actually think that story, looking back at our history and applying it today, is incredibly relevant as we see fierce attacks on LGBTQ, on transgendered individuals in our community. We see attacks on immigrants who contribute to our community, who often are working the jobs that no other folks want to take on, and who are paying taxes. But there is this fear-based culture, and as a community, we have to step up to that, and we have to say, "Not here, not anytime," and we do not condone any hate or bigotry in our community. And we as individuals need to step up now more than ever. We should always step up. But I think that he is really an exemplar during a very dark time in our history of a leader who did exactly that.
And Commissioner Dahlkemper, what is your message to the Jefferson County community right now?
My message to the Jefferson County community really focuses on the collaborative partnership that really makes us a strong community as we navigate some of the most challenging issues facing Jefferson County, whether it's housing affordability, mental health, roads and infrastructure, wildfire resiliency, whether it's the attack that we're seeing on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are stronger together as a community, and your county commissioners are here to ensure that we get results for you and really want to encourage your voice in that process. And thank you very much for the honor of serving as one of your county commissioners as well. I appreciate it very much, and I take that role very seriously.
It was great sitting down with you, Commissioner Dahlkemper, and getting to know more about you. We really appreciate you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Amber, for doing this, and Johnny behind the camera as well.